KMMU. That is Utah Mainstream Media. We're so happy to have you join us. This is the Liberty Mom Show. I'm your host, Dalane, England. Liberty Moms are the original secretaries of defense. We are the real defenders of the home front. And we are there when it comes to defending our families and our communities. And I have a really great guest with us today that I'm so excited about. It's taken a while to get our schedules together, but I am thrilled to introduce to you Representative Katy Hall. She's a Utah representative, and she is truly a Liberty mom, a great representative of Liberty. She is married and has 4 boys. She has 3 daughters-in-law, so that's really awesome. So she got some girls in there. And
Yeah.
I know that it's true because I know she's not a liar, but she is actually a grandmother. If you look at her, you're like, there is no way she's a grandmother. You're thinking she's got kids as old as her grandkids. But she has been standing on the front lines, and it's just been a joy and a pleasure to work with her in the legislature. So welcome, Representative Hall.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So, Katy, first of all, my first question to you is, and it's not why did you decide to run to be a representative? It's how did you learn about the Constitution? Like, where did you get your basis of the Constitution from?
Well, I think like everyone, our basis was in school, in grade school, in junior high and high school. You learn the basics of it. And I'm sure I took some classes in college as well. And I think as you get older and you like start having a family and you like, it becomes more and more meaningful to you, and I think if we're learning about it when we're young and then we use it to kind of guide our lives here in America and realize all the freedoms and the amazing country that this is to live in, you can't help but just revere it as a wonderful thing that has really we're a country like no other, and it's because of the Constitution.
Very well said. That is exactly what American exceptionalism is. It's not that we're exceptional. It's not like, oh, Americans are exceptional people. It's that our Constitution, our framework is exceptional. It's like no other Constitution, no other framework that protects the individual rights of each one of us. And it is divine, and it is amazing, and it is such a blessing. And I love that you recognize that and that you have raised your children to recognize that. That's really great. Okay, so now I am going to ask the question. So what made you decide, you're a nurse, you've been out there helping people. What made you decide to run for office and become a representative?
I'm going to close my office door because I'm hearing kids come in. Hang on.
Okay, yeah, because you know what? Liberty moms, we're multifaceted between work and raising her family and her grandkids. So, yes. Okay, so what made you decide to run for office?
So I think, it's kind of funny. I think when you're raising your kids, you kind of just get caught up in just doing that and focusing on that. And that was my main focus for
as well
my
as should
kids.
be.
And getting them through high school. I went back to work once my youngest was 7, 8, 9. I went back to work at the hospital, but I just worked part-time because for me it was important to be at the crossroads. And everybody's different, but I wanted to be at the crossroads of their lives as they came home from school if they needed me. So I worked a lot of night shifts and kind of made that adjustment. And then as my kids got older, and a few years ago, I moved to working day shifts in a different area at the hospital. And my youngest graduated. And so I was like, well, I can go to work more, which is great. I'm happy to do that. But as I was kind of just looking at what was happening here in Utah, I kind of was getting a little bit I wouldn't say upset, just like dumbfounded as to some of the things that were happening. And it's funny, I have a little workout group of ladies, and we work out a couple times a week, and we just sit there and talk politics. We're kind of funny. We just talk about all the things going on. And we're all athletic, and we're very, female oriented athletes, and love what history has done for female athletes with Title IX and everything. And sorry, my chair started sinking. As we were talking, and Kara Birkeland had that bill that came through, and we saw in the news, this bill didn't make it through that would protect women's sports for women. And as we were talking about that, we're like, what is going on in Utah? How could that not pass? Like, we just were dumbfounded. And then as we looked it up, our representative, because we're all in the same neighborhood, our representative voted against it. And we were dumbfounded by that. And I was like, what is going on?
That's a simple one.
Right?
There's issues we can disagree on and kind of be concerned about. There's both sides, but
Right.
That one is so simple.
Yes, that one is black and white.
It's easy.
That one's black and white, common sense principles to me, period. And so to like look at that and go, wait, what happened there? And then as we looked at that, it was at the same time as the Dixie State name change was happening too. And my husband and I graduated from Dixie State. That's where we met. He's from St. George. And we were hearing rumors about, this potential name change. And I was like, that's never going to happen in Utah. Like, they're going to, the culture war is going to end right here, because Utah's going to push back. And then it was going through, and then to find out that it was my representative too that was sponsoring the bill, I was like, what is happening? And so I just said to myself, I said, somebody needs to push back. I actually talked to my husband. I'm like, do you want to run? You should run. And he's like, he's a physician. He's a very busy orthopedic surgeon. He has no time to do any of that. And so I was like, fine, then I'm going to run. And he's like, okay, do it. And so, I just signed up to run, and I thought, I'm just going to push back. I'm just going to stand up and stand for something and show people that it's okay to push back and stand up for truth and stand up for what's right. And hopefully encourage my friends and neighbors to stand up as well. And win or lose, I was like, at least I'm putting myself out there and saying, stand up. And then once I started getting into it, and I was like, okay, how do I get on the ballot in Utah? And I'm investigating that more. And you could get on the ballot by getting signatures or going through convention or both, So I actually decided to do both because I wanted to get out and talk to people. And I had the time to go gather all my own signatures. And so I knew that would help me formulate and help me solidify what I believe to other people. And so I went out and talked to people, and I got all the 1,000 signatures by myself. I had a nephew that helped me, and I paid him. He got about 100. And then between my husband and I, and then a couple of neighbors got maybe another 50 to 100. But then between my husband and I, we got 800 of them. And so it was like, and we got even more because you have to get more.
You have to overshoot for sure.
I wanted to make sure that I got on the ballot so that people would have a choice, and I know there's SB 54 and people get upset about that, but I think if you're going to go and get your own signatures, then there's something to be said for that. Anyway. And so when in pushing back for that, I just thought, even if I don't win, at least I'm standing up. And then I knocked on all the doors to get signatures. And then after convention, I was one vote away from tying him in convention. So we both would have been on the ballot regardless anyways.
Right.
And he got signatures as well too, by the way. So anyway, once the convention was over, I started knocking doors even harder. And I knocked on another, 1,500 doors until the ballots dropped in the mail, and I beat him 62 to 38. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, that's really
and
amazing.
He's a nice man. I want to clarify that I think he's a nice man. But again, we can disagree on things, and we can disagree on principle. And I just wanted to stand up and represent my area that principally was saying, we don't believe these things are right that are happening. So
Yes, and I appreciate what you said, because it is nice to be respectful of each other. That is the
Mhm.
American way, that is the Christian way, to be
Yeah.
respectful, but we are free thinkers. Americans are free
Right.
thinkers. We are not Stepford people. We like to think for ourselves, but we do have principles that we believe in that bring us together. That's what unites us, is the principles. The founding fathers and founding mothers disagreed bitterly. They had different
Right.
perspectives, the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists.
Mhm.
Should we have a constitution, or should we, have a Bill of Rights? That was even divisive, and
Right.
debated and argued. How do we get rid of slavery? But they all agreed on one principle, and that was self-governing freedom, that we should
Yes.
govern ourselves. And so how we get there is what we debate and discuss and don't always agree on. And so
Right.
I would say, and I know that you will, and I'll give you a chance to say, I would say that almost every single legislator that we have in the state of Utah is a really good person, a really, really good person. We just disagree on understanding the principles and how to implement those principles. And sometimes we disagree on what the principles are, but I think that we're all there. Most everyone's a good person. I think there
Yeah.
are a few exceptions to that, but I won't bring up any names. But I don't think everyone is good, but I think almost everyone is. So
I,
what's your
I,
take on that? I'll just give you a
I,
chance to
I,
respond.
yeah, I agree completely. I think when I got down there and started interacting with the legislators, I found it very, like, really nice to know that there is really good people down there that do
Yes.
care about Utah and care
Yes.
about Utahns, and even if we're on different sides of the aisle, um, I think that they do care. I think it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard when we disagree on the best way to help people, and
Right.
when the politics get in the way. That has been really frustrating for me, especially lately. But I think for the most part, we have core values that we do
Yes.
believe in, and it's just a matter of trying to find policy that can help people the most, So
Yes, exactly. And I think we differ. Like, I ask people, what is the proper role of government? And, according to the founding fathers, the proper role of government is to protect our rights. End of
right,
story. Not to provide for us, but to protect our freedoms. And
that's
there
right.
are those on the other side of the aisle who feel like the government is there to provide things for us. And that's, they want the government to provide and take care of it. And that's, in my opinion, that's very dangerous. But
Yeah,
that's where we have some
yeah.
heated
There,
discussions and debates, but that's where we really
there,
divide on
yeah. There
policy.
is
But
definitely disagreement there.
well-intended, see, they're well-intended.
Mhm.
And it's not, I think we also agree that we should do things for people, but should it be the government, or should it be free enterprise or charities or churches
For
or
sure.
people? Those
Exactly.
things are real. Those problems are real. And we are called upon as Christians and as members of the community, whether you're Christian or not, we are called upon to take care of our brethren and sisters. But should it be done by the government, or should it be done in a separate, like I said, another entity? And that
Mm.
again is where we can often disagree
Yeah, I
how to
agree
do it.
1,000%. I agree that I don't think that the proper role of government is to just give, 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 give. I think there's certain things that we do need to help with as a government, but forced it's like forced charity is not charity.
It's not charity. It's
It's not
tyranny.
charity. Like, I would rather let people have their money to do those charitable things through churches, through nonprofits, through even corporations or whatever, whoever. And that's what has built America up. That's what has built us. And we've just gone too big in government, too big in programs that are seemingly, yes, to help people, but we don't need
Yes,
to be
and
growing
good
government like
programs.
that. Yeah, we
Hmm.
don't need to be growing government like that. A private or nonprofit um, program could work just as good or better than some of
Often
the
better,
government
usually much
programs that
better,
we have.
because you don't have
Usually
so much
better.
overhead. And the
No.
beauty of that is then we have the purification of our own spirits. We are
Mhm.
purified. We are better when we give to someone rather than we're forced to take it out of our money. We're forced to do it. It doesn't purify us. And when we give of our own free will, not only do we help those in need, we also sanctify ourselves. So it's a really
Yeah.
important part of bettering ourselves. So Katy, tell me give us one of your favorite bills that you passed this year or that
This year.
you presented.
Well, my favorite one, honestly, is the Equal Opportunity Initiatives, HB 261. It was a big, long. I worked on it the entire year. I worked on it a little bit last year during last session on a portion of it that ended up not passing in the Senate, weirdly, and then anyway, the timing of it was really badly done. But then I just kept hearing more and more from university professors, from conservative minorities in my area that were like, keep working on this, keep pushing it, do whatever we can. And it literally took the whole year of kind of just meeting with people and looking at how do we want to do this in a way that is constitutional, is going to hit the issues, the biggest issues that we're seeing in within higher ed, public ed, and governmental entities as a whole, in this DEI space that just has these just tons of discrimination practices, right? Discriminatory practices. And so as we were looking at the language and other states have done things, yes, and so you look at pieces of what other states did, and then we just did it the way we wanted to do it, and we made it Utah's, and we worked with higher ed, we worked with all of the stakeholders. I know there's arguments, there's people that don't like the bill. Oh, you never talked to me. Well, you never reached out to me either, because I had this bill last year. You had the whole year. You could have reached out to me. I will talk to anybody, even people that disagree with me. I'll have a conversation with you. We're not going to agree probably in the end on the policy, but I'll have a conversation with you. And nobody reached out to me. So I talk to whoever will reach out to me. No problem.
And we learn so much from the people that we disagree with. Like, they can bring up points. You go, gosh, I never really thought of it that way, but now I understand where you're coming from. And let's see if we can, make this work. And can we add this so that it does fulfill the need? It doesn't mean anyone gets everything, but we always want to have the conversation, because I think they learn from us, we learn from them. Everything is so much better by having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we really, even though we didn't hear from a ton of people, we really still tried to take into account, like, what is it about diversity that we do want, that we do love?
Absolutely. We're so diverse.
We want diversity. We want equality of opportunity. We don't want equality of outcome. We cannot control the outcomes, because we have autonomy. We have, we get to choose our destiny by how hard we want to work, by the gifts that we're given.
Different. What we want is different.
We're all
we don't
different.
even want all the same outcomes. We want different things.
Exactly. We're all individuals. And so how do we treat people as individuals as well? And then how do we also be inclusive? These are not bad words. They've just been politicized to death, unfortunately. And we want,
and they're not true either, because we actually want inclusivity. And really those who are screaming inclusive they want to exclude many of us. They don't want
inclusion to the point of exclusion is the problem. And so as we're looking at this, we're like, how can we provide all these things? And so we came up with these student success centers, student success offices, and each individual university and higher ed institution is different in the amount of this that they have kind of flowing through. And so we said, every institution is going to have to take a look at all of their offices, at all of their practices, at all of their trainings and these things. And we're saying, you cannot do these discriminatory practices. These are discriminatory. If any of these offices or trainings or applications have this in it, cut it out. That's it. You can't discriminate for or against someone because of their personal identity characteristics. And so it doesn't, what it says is you can't just rename this. We also want you to rename it because it's become so politicized, but you can't just rename it. You have to look at what is actually happening. And if you are, saying this race is this and this race is this, and that's discrimination. So stop. Yeah. So, but we want student success for at-risk students. And we realize that there are some factors that make kids at risk. It's not just your personal identity characteristic, though. There's many factors that can make people at risk for not completing their educational goals. So we're saying all these people that have been working in the offices, if they can move to this model of help anyone that needs it, not just this demographic that you have said you want to help, if you can move to that, then my guess is they'll still have a job and they'll still have an office for that, to help those people. But if they're not willing to do that and they can't change their ideological frame of mind away from discrimination against anyone, then there may be issues. But we're not saying they have to do that. It's the universities that are going to have to look at that and see. And then we put reporting measures in there too, because there has to be some teeth in it as far as we're not just going to say, oh yeah, go do this. And then, things don't get done. So
no follow through. Yeah. No
so
accountability.
Anyone can report back to the higher ed, and the higher ed will have to give us a report to the legislature. And I have people, honestly, that are texting me things all the time, texting me and emailing me and saying, oh my gosh, look at this on the, this university's website or this school's website. And I'll look at it and they're like, doesn't this violate it? And I said, it might. Please forward this to the school district, to the higher ed, or to whoever. But also they have till July 1st. We gave them till July 1st to kind of look at everything, because it's kind of permeated through everything. And so we felt like that was a good time frame for them to take a look at things and get things changed. And then come July 1st, if there's still things going on, we need to let them know.
I love that, because that does give them time to get the problems fixed, because they need time to make the corrections and look and see what's happening and take care of it. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's great. And that's enough time. And it also does allow for, it's in place and ready before the school starts in August.
Right.
Things are all set in place. So that's really good for the next year.
And I want to let people know, none of this happened overnight. None of what's going on happened overnight. There's been a serious ramp up in the last 10 to 12 years. I'm hoping it doesn't take 10 to 12 years to kind of get back to a common sense place of where we don't discriminate against anyone, period. And again, that's not to say there is not going to be any discrimination or any racism. Unfortunately, there are stupid people out there that are hateful. Sorry, I'm just going to say it. There are. We can't legislate against, stupid people. Unfortunately,
people's hearts, that comes with education. It comes from life experience.
Exactly. Yeah. And being examples to other people. Exactly. We need to show the example and try to get as much procedural fairness as we can, so that everyone has equal treatment under the law. So
that is one of my favorite bills.
Yeah. So I'm asking people, be patient too. Let's be patient with them as they try to make this adjustment back. I'm trying to be patient. But we do need to still call things out when we see them.
And I have seen this world. I grew up in a society much older than you. I grew up in a society that really, I did not know racism. I felt like there wasn't racism. We had Black people and Hispanics and different races in our schools, and we just loved them. We we didn't even we hardly noticed, but we made no
Right.
deal of it. It just wasn't
Right.
an issue at all. And I feel like that's really where we've been. I think I would never pretend that racism was gone and there wasn't any racism. Of course,
Right.
there's always going to be individuals, but I feel like as a society, we had really overcome that. It has been so long. It has been,
Right.
generations, and
Right.
people do not see people that way. They don't look at that as a
Right.
whole. Of course, there's always
Right.
individuals who have those judgments for whatever reason. And that works both ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I mean I feel the same way. I'm 51 years old, almost 52, and I those policies and those things were never in place since I've been alive. And
Right.
so
Yes.
I think race relations were going really quite well, and there's lots of
Fantastic.
data and studies to show that in the last 10 years it has gone kind of backwards. Those race relations have
Right.
gone backwards. And that's really, really sad. We need to get back to a place where we're not, and nobody's saying don't notice someone's race. That, you can't
Right.
become, no, nobody, we're saying treat them equal no matter what they look like or what their identity is, or, let's get back to just being kind to everyone and
Yeah.
not just, I think it's really unfortunate because what's happening now is that kids are being taught to see race first. And
Yes. To
and
make it a big issue, and that
and
is the issue
right.
rather
And to
than the
make it
person.
that your biggest judgment of how you, and it's like, whoa, wait a second. I thought we were trying to get away from that. We were trying to
Right.
not judge based on race, but judge based on character, to live Martin Luther King's dream, right? The I have a dream speech that
Exactly.
that is so famous, but is very interestingly not on his memorial in Washington, D.C., by the way, if you've ever been out there.
Yes.
It's a pretty new
Interestingly
memorial in the
enough.
last few years, and it has like 30 different quotes from all these different speeches, but guess which one is not on there?
It's gone.
The I have a dream
Totally
speech
gone.
is
It
not
used
on
to be there.
Well, I don't know that it used to be because it's a new memorial.
It used to be in DC. I mean, I used to go to DC and you used to see the quote all over the place. It used to be in the Smithsonian. It used to be in the museums. You used to see it in all kinds of places in DC. I mean, you couldn't not see it. It was all over there. But it is interesting how it's missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's suddenly
it is
missing.
Very interesting. There's I'm just right in the middle of a really good book called The End of Race Politics by Coleman Hughes. And it is on point, 100% on point. I would highly recommend it for anyone.
And repeat the title.
It's called The End of Race Politics.
End of Race Relations.
The End of Race Politics. Yep.
Politics, excuse me.
Yep. The End of Race Politics.
End of Race Politics. And who's the author?
Yep. Coleman Hughes.
Hughes. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. That sounds fantastic. It sounds very worth the read. And I love that you're reading it. It's really awesome.
Yeah. I love reading books like that. I love reading. Well, I shouldn't say I read them. I listen to them while I run and ride.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it really has helped you prepare, and you've obviously been doing that in order to prepare for this bill. And it's been a great blessing to our state. And I'm just so thrilled to have that through. Another bill of yours that I really love was HB 290, ranked choice voting. I am sick that it didn't pass. It got so close and so far.
I know.
You did an excellent job on it. And I don't know what you
we got it through the House. Yeah. We got it through the House. We missed the Senate by 3 votes. It was a little frustrating, but
it just kind of shows there's a lot of power to change the way we vote.
Right.
And to water it down and make it easier for more liberals to get into office, because that's what ranked choice voting does, in my opinion.
Well, and my hope is with the bill that I ran was just to repeal the pilot program that only has one more municipal election cycle to go, and it's
Right.
only used in municipal elections. And so my hope is that we've raised the red flag enough, and that we've highlighted the negatives of it enough that people are like, no, we don't want to. I don't see the legislature renewing the sunset. And that was kind of my point. Like, we're not going to renew the sunset in 2 years, so why not just get rid of it now? And there's people that still wanted one more year to use it in their municipal elections, which again, I argue is very confusing for voters, because they're going from 1 year using regular voting, the next year ranked choice voting, the next year regular, the next year ranked choice. I mean, it makes no sense. I don't know why they ever.
Well,
I don't know why.
I personally think they wanted to keep it because they do want, I think there's going to be a big campaign to
Oh, there
keep it and to
probably
re-up
will
it.
be.
And they're going to say, you know what, municipalities should be able to do what they want. They should be able to have a flawed voting system if they want to. If they want to have a flawed voting,
Yeah.
because what your bill brought up is truly how very flawed ranked choice voting is, how it changes the outcome of the election, how it totally weakens how the election goes and changes who wins. It literally changes the winner.
There's a possibility of that. And I know Lehigh had an election last year that very well could have been. It's hard to count, though. It's hard to judge. And the problem is that
audit.
The problem is we kind of already have a ranked choice voting with municipal elections anyways, in that a lot of them have 2 and 3 candidates. So you're voting for your top 2 or 3 anyways. And so it's already in place in that. So it just doesn't make sense that they ever even put it in, because I think you have for mayoral and stuff, which doesn't have, that as much, but what the takeaway from the 3 years that they've done it is, it might save a little bit of money, but it's more expensive for candidates. They have to campaign for longer. They have to have, it clutters up cities with multiple signs. If you have 9 candidates, some races had 13 candidates. You've got signs up everywhere for so long.
In front of each other, on top of each other.
Yes, everywhere. I mean, I just think, and I'm not saying that there isn't something that's like, I think their intentions, well, it's hard to say. I think there's some people that have intentions to get, different candidates in, but I think there is some people whose intentions were, this is kinder and gentler, and it will make things less complicated with campaigning, and people will be kinder. But at the same time, I feel like also sometimes, if you're not going to say, you don't have to say exactly what you believe, or how you're principled, or what, because you can just say, well, yeah, you can like them, but maybe put me second then, or, or yeah, this is kind of what I believe. Nobody has to be pinned down on what they truly believe, it feels like. So
they don't have to win a majority.
And
then, it's very hard to shine light on truth, because people are more worried about, any repercussions rather than the way elections, like, we want to be out there and tell the truth. We want to speak the truth and let people judge by that, but it's designed to kind of stop people from wanting to be honest about each other. And I know we don't like ugliness. We don't want to disparage another candidate, but we also need to be able to tell the truth about them.
Right.
It's important.
I agree. I don't approve of any of the ugliness, but at the same time, just telling the truth about what's going on. And again, I don't think that people who want ranked choice voting are bad people. I just think that the system is flawed. And to say that you solve plurality with ranked choice voting, I don't think is very, I think that's a little disingenuous, because so many ballots get cast aside before you get to that 50% anyway. And so how can you say,
Mhm.
oh, that's the true majority because they got 50%? Well, there was 4,000 ballots that just got discarded.
Exactly, 50% of 20% of the voters, or I'm
Right.
just making up that number,
Or, but
doesn't
even
mean
if
anything,
it's
I'm just saying.
50% of 70% of the voters,
Right,
that's still not a true plurality. So
it's not. Yes,
it just doesn't make sense. The one vote, one
right.
person, one vote. Like I will continue to hammer that home for the next couple years until the sunset comes up and we hopefully do not vote it in again.
Well,
I
and
will not be voting for that.
you did a great job educating legislators and the public. There's a lot of great information, so I thought you did an excellent job on that bill.
Thank you.
I was disappointed in the end, but I thought you did such a good job. You did your job. It's
Well,
up to them.
thanks. Thanks.
Well, okay. Do you have another bill that you would like to share with us that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I
It
have
doesn't have to
one
be
that
yours either. It can be a bill that you just
no.
really enjoyed.
Well, I have one that I worked on at the end, and unfortunately, it got drafted really late in the session, and so
Which is
didn't get
hard.
quite the vetting, and didn't some of the stakeholders didn't feel like they had enough time to kind of jump in, and so it was a little frustrating because I think it's really important, and that is, I had an ER physician. The bill was HB 570, I believe.
Right,
Um,
570.
yeah. And so I had an ER physician in my neighborhood, and one of my constituents reach out to me and say he has some really big concerns about the freestanding emergency departments that are popping up along the Wasatch Front. So they're in urban areas. We carved out rural. We're not talking about rural. We know rural could just, they're kind of a triage center, get whatever you can do, right? These
Right.
are urban, within 10 to 15 miles of their parent hospital. Each hospital is allowed to have up to two. Um, and and basically, I mean, they do have a little higher quality of maybe like acuity as far as they have ER physicians that are staffing them. So you have people that are trained in emergency, not like an Instacare usually has like a family practice or a nurse
Right.
practitioner or something, which is great. And that's a great level of care for
Mhm.
Instacare and urgent care. But these are emergency. They are labeled emergency. They are billed as emergency, which is 10 to 20 times what an urgent or
And
Instacare would bill
Instacare.
you.
Mhm.
And so his feeling is, and I'm a nurse, my feeling is, and I think the general public feels that if you are going to an emergency room, you should be getting emergency level care, right? And so kind of what's been happening in some of these is they're trying to take back some of the things, like they've had a full lab so that the doctors can run labs and see what's going on with someone, and there's certain labs that are necessary for diagnosing emergent problems,
Right.
and these facilities are taking out the labs now. They've never had respiratory therapists, which is something we had in the bill that is, he believes, vital to providing emergency care. If you have someone with an airway problem
Mhm.
in a hospital, in a regular hospital ER, you have a code, you're going to have a respiratory therapist, anesthesiologist, a couple of nurses, all these people that are going to get there, at least 4 people on a code team, right? Um,
Wow.
and and so it's kind of like, I think he just has very big concerns about patient safety. Is in the end is what it is. Patient safety is, he feels like being compromised a bit for the bottom line. And so this bill was just to say this is minimum standards, and they weren't even that big of minimum standards. But again, it didn't pass. We didn't have a lot of time to go over it with the stakeholders. And so I'm in the process of doing that now. I have a working group going. We're going to be hitting it in the interim and really discussing it and seeing what's going on in these freestanding emergency departments. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And so you think you'll plan on running that again, and so
Yeah. Yeah. A
there's a
version
high
of it.
chance that that will be
Yeah.
very successful with a little bit more time.
Yeah, my hope is that we can get a committee bill on it, and then it will have priority drafting kind of hopefully come out early. And I mean,
Great.
they've tried going, these ER physicians, they've tried going through the corporate chain. I mean, they've tried that, but it's always nope, this is what we're going to do because this saves money. And it's like, okay, there
Right.
is, where I'm like, I believe in capitalism. I get that, but not to the point where you're compromising patient safety. So
Right. Yeah. Because there is a purpose, and the goal really is to save people, to do no
right, to
harm, to
provide
save people, to
emergency
help.
care. Yeah,
It,
emergency care, not urgent care or insta care. Yeah.
yes. Well, that is where I think we've really lost teaching that in our society. I think both as an educator in schools, I've seen a huge lack of it, and definitely at the legislature, the distinction between the free enterprise system,
Mhm.
capitalism, and and crony capitalism, where the
Mm.
free enterprise system was established on as an exchange of value. There was a
Right.
moral foundation. We're not just about making money. We want to exchange value. We have a moral foundation. So we don't just go out and do things that make us money. We want, based on moral compass, we create value and then exchange with you an equal amount. And that's what healthcare should be, was always meant to be, that with a moral compass and exchange versus capitalism that is designed, we're in business to make money.
Right.
It kind of lacks that moral foundation.
Right.
Nothing wrong with making money, not at
Right.
all. We need to make money.
No,
That's a good
not
thing.
at all. Yeah.
And people should have businesses. So that's great. But we need to be sure that the moral foundation is there. Then you have crony capitalists who are, they'll make money at your expense as an employee, as a customer. They will destroy their own customers at their own gain for power and money and control.
Yeah.
And so, but we don't distinguish those. So we say, as Republicans, we're pro-capitalist,
Capitalism.
where I
Yeah.
would prefer that we speak, we're pro free enterprise system, and
Right.
that we
Right.
speak against crony capitalists,
Right.
because those people who are willing to make money at the expense of their patients and clients are not aligned with America or freedom.
Yep.
It
I'm
might
writing
not
I'm
allow
writing these
abortion.
notes down because you're giving me good thoughts.
Okay, great. Well, Katy, you are just such a delight and a joy, and I just really just can't tell you how happy that I am that you are in our Utah legislature. It just thrills me. And I know that
Oh,
you're running. I don't even know if you have an opponent.
I don't. No.
Okay, lovely. That's really nice,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
every legislator has a 2-year term. So every even year, every House member is running. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I just think that says a lot. It's pretty exciting. It's very nice. I hope you enjoy this little reprieve from having a
Yeah.
campaign.
I am. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know that it'll ever happen again, so I'm gonna enjoy it.
Right. Enjoy it while it lasts. Well,
Yeah.
it gives you more time to enjoy your family.
It does, for sure.
So,
And it gives me time to help other what I'm
mhm,
really trying to do is help other Republican candidates that have tough races, and I'm going to go
that
out and
are
knock doors for them.
principled, that are
Yeah.
like-minded, that
Yeah.
are like
Yep.
you, that are
Exactly.
like-minded, because they need help, and
Right.
we need to reelect them so that you're not a minority in the House, so that
Yep.
you have a lot of cover and backup from others.
Right.
Because we've got to have more principled representatives to
Yeah.
get the really good bills through.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of them that have tough races against Democrats too.
Yes.
So I will be
Yeah.
out knocking doors and helping all I can. So it's going to be
Love
good.
it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you
thanks.
so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Representative
having
Hall.
me. All right.
Thank
We'll talk to
you.
you later.
I'll
Thanks.
look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. I
Okay,
don't know how
now
to.
we are going to shift gears. We're going to take a
Hi,
quick
Karen.
break, and we'll be right back.